All right, so this is an interesting report from Politico yesterday. A former Obama economic advisor, Jason Furman, came out with a sort of warning about a general election nightmare scenario for Democrats, which is essentially that as things start to reopen, and this isn't a crazy take to me, as things
totally right.
start to reopen, and people start to, in some numbers, start shopping again, get back to work, there's no doubt that the economy is going to start to look better than it does now. And that timing of, we've gotten used to 3 million unemployment claims a week, skyrocketing unemployment, even though the situation will still be bad compared to where we are now, we'll be making, grand progress of people getting off unemployment, getting jobs back, jobs created, et cetera, et cetera. And that timing could coincide perfectly with when voters are going to the polls.
Right. And so I actually think Furman is totally correct. And what he said is you can imagine a scenario where GDP numbers through the roof, right? I mean, this is the thing is I still don't believe we're going to have a V-shaped recovery necessarily.
Right.
I still think it's going to be much more analogous to an L or like a crooked L that starts to go up. But that crooked L, when you're starting at zero, it looks pretty high.
Well, that's the thing. Yeah. And I think it was Andrew Yang who made the same point is we're not going to get all the jobs that were lost. We are not going to get back. Yeah. But it's going to be a while before we see where the new sort of steady state of the economy is and just how long and robust that recovery is. So if the trend line looks up as we're heading into November, of course, the Trump campaign is going to tell, look, you got to trust me. I'm doing an amazing job. The jobs are coming back, just like we said. We're making, what's the new slogan?
Transition to greatness.
Transition is so bad. Oh, that's a terrible choice.
MAGA was great. Just keep it.
They're going to make that case. We're transitioning to greatness. Nice ring to it. But you could see how that could work because it's only just recently that polls have started to tighten around that question of who would be better on the economy. Trump has had an edge on that question his entire administration. And so, if the numbers start to rebound, even though I think we both think it's not going to get back to where it was for a very long time, we won't know that by November.
That's exactly right. And, according to this Politico story, top policy officials in the Biden campaign recognize this too. They're preparing for a fall economic debate, which is going to look very different than the one we have right now. The real numbers to watch, I think, this was pointed out by my friend Joe Weisenthal over at Bloomberg this morning in his newsletter, is that you can look at open table data, which is the number of restaurant reservations that are spiking in states like Georgia, Texas, and others which are fully reopening and where you can go out to eat. And you can look at the number of coronavirus cases. So the cases remain not flat, but not spiked relative to the amount that people are going out and re-engaging in normal life. So if that is a trend which continues over time, then you're going to see that, here in D.C., we're scheduled or likely to reopen quite soon. You're going to see if, as long as the economic data, when it crawls up, that's what boosts consumer confidence. And so that will get you to a level, like I said, of like a wobbly L that starts to track up. It's a very good story for the Trump campaign, especially if the Biden campaign is betting all in on doom and gloom within the economy. That's not a reasonable bet that you can make. It's one that, you can be on one side of it. There's a way to prosecute that case and say, hey, this is underemployment, et cetera, et cetera. Go after the more systemic levels of problems in the economy. I think that's probably the smarter way to go because we're still probably going to have, the White House even says we're probably going to have double-digit unemployment come November. So, there's still going to be a lot of mass satisfaction. What do we do out there?
Yeah.
But there's a good story for Trump to tell in this scenario.
I kind of made fun of Rahm Emanuel advising Joe Biden in my radar today, which you should check out. And he had great ideas like, let's have a new Learn to Code program. Awesome. That'll be amazing. But he did say something that was interesting, which was that Democrats are kind of getting caught in this stay closed versus reopen debate. And it's not a good place to be. Ultimately, Democrats should go big with, federal jobs for infrastructure, like some big, large scale thing that Republicans have to say, no, that's too big, that's too much to, so that they're in a more of an aggressive posture versus the position that they're sort of in now, which is like, let's all just stay down in the basement, which is increasingly going to be unappealing to Americans. We know the polling data that people are more concerned of reopening too quickly. But as things do start to reopen, if you don't see a massive spike, if people are about to, able to go about their business and the economy does start to pick up, you you can see how Democrats will be in a very weak position if the only ground they've essentially staked down is, no, we've got to all stay in our basements.
Exactly.
And it's also where, look, Joe has very much benefited from being able to stay hidden, which was made very apparent when he deigned to do, the Breakfast Club interview, which went catastrophically wrong on every level, especially with, of course, his "then you ain't black" comments. The more things reopen, the less he'll be able to avoid having to speak, having to make his case, having to have an affirmative case that's not just Trump bad, Trump bad. And those dynamics have not been great for him.
No, it certainly hasn't. And this is something I can very much see in Michigan. Like, Governor Whitmer has gone all in on these lockdowns, including like sicking cops after people, writing fines, etc. She's got a 24% unemployment rate in her state. Okay, 24% is one of the worst in the entire country. Now, good luck keeping it up on that debate. And this is where, what we've criticized, and I think what we've always been very consistent on, is both of us support the idea of reopening the economy. It's more about providing the fiscal support to businesses and to people in order to get them to the point where we get back to full consumer demand.
Yeah, where we can do it safely.
Right. Nobody wants to keep people locked inside, and nobody wants to keep people on unemployment. Nobody wants to keep people, away from society. I think that's terrible. I saw a study yesterday that says anxiety and depression's through the roof as a result of this.
It's like a third of Americans showing signs of anxiety and depression.
Showing anxiety and depression. Alcohol use is all the way up. Marijuana use is, drug use is way up. All ills in our society. These are bad things. And so nobody wants that. And so if you are seen as somebody who is going all in on that, then I think that's ridiculous. I saw Michael Chertoff, he's a former DHS official, advising the D.C. mayor. He said, I don't think we should reopen until we have a vaccine. I think that's crazy. You just can't, you absolutely cannot live life that way. And
if you're talking about maybe 2 years.
Right, maybe never. There's still not a vaccine for SARS. And so if you go and you look at that, you have to have an approach which balances the very real need, want, and necessity of people getting back into the marketplace, reopening the economy, re-engaging in society, with having to stay safe. I think right now we're kind of in the exact sweet spot, which is that the reopening is happening. My main criticism, and this is why you and I don't get in these stupid lockdown liberty debates, it's much more about, I have no question, there's no question in my mind that most people were scared and wanted to stay inside. It's more, we have to give people the fiscal response, cushion, etc., so that we don't make sure that they're ruined 6 months to a year from now.
Yeah, well, and I am very concerned that we reopen too soon, and Trump has already said, we're not doing this again, and that there isn't a responsiveness to, okay, cases start to spike in this place, we've got to shut down again. I am very concerned about that, and that, I want to be clear, that is a very real and very possible scenario. But I think we have to follow what the data is telling us now. We have to follow the science now. We have to understand that there is a balance of people who want to be able to work, who are deeply depressed and anxious, who want to be able to go, back to some, not normal, but some semblance as safely as you possibly can of life. And if the Biden campaign doesn't realize that and isn't able to offer a program and a vision and an agenda that is up to where Americans are at the moment, it's going to be a problem for them.
I think that's right.
More Rising for you after this.